Fall in love with the hilarious habits of African creatures you thought you knew, and those you've never heard of. I'd like to read you a story from my book, Cat Among the Pigeons. This one is about the flamingo. I think most of you are familiar with the flamingo, but just in case you've forgotten what one looks like, here's Patricia de Villiers' illustration in the book. It may come clear just now who the rest of those things are. When considering the flamingo, it's difficult to decide whether nature was cracking a joke or showing off. How a bird that apparently shares its ancestry with the diminutive grebe could be persuaded to get up on stilts, turn its beak upside down, and equip itself for a gay parade is one of life's enduring puzzles. Flamingos are ungainly and yet elegant, garish and yet gorgeous. They can raise a laugh or reignite the smouldering souls of poets. It comes as no surprise that Lewis Carroll chose to employ them as croquet mallets in the illogically logical world of Alice in Wonderland. There are 6 extant species of flamingo, and they are all by and large cut from the same colourful cloth and follow the same basic design. The 7th type, Featherston's flamingo, is differentiated by the fact that it's made of plastic. It can be found on manicured lawns in suburban America, usually singly or in pairs, but sometimes in flocks. Originally created in 1957 by Don Featherston for the Garden Ornament Company Union Products, the current population of indestructible pink plastic flamingos is estimated to run into millions. While reviled by many as the pinnacle of kitsch, the Smithsonian recognizes the enigma as an icon of American folk art, and in 2009 it was adopted, believe it or not, was the official plastic bird of the city of Madison in the state of Wisconsin. Blimey. Real flamingos are not endemic to the USA, least of all Wisconsin, and traditionally favour tropical and subtropical climes. The closest naturally occurring populations of American flamingos are found on islands in the Caribbean. 3 other New World species live further south, notably in Chile. The exotic and appealing vision of paradise that the birds conjure up in the jaded minds of commuting America probably explains the enduring appeal of Mr. Featherstone's immobile replicas. The world's most widespread living and breathing species is the greater flamingo, which occurs in isolated communities in many parts of Africa, southern Europe and Southeast Asia. The most numerous is the lesser flamingo, particularly famous for gathering in vast flocks numbering in the tens of thousands on the inhospitable soda lakes of East Africa's Great Rift Valley. Where they overlap, including in South Africa, the 2 species are sometimes found together, sharing the same habitat. Both species are filter feeders, but largely target different prey and so have no reason to get testy with each other. The lesser flamingo feeds mainly on plankton and algae, and while the bigger bird tucks into smaller aquatic invertebrates, insects and tiny fish. But their method of feeding is essentially the same. They dip their bristle-lined, topsy-turvy bill into the water and sweep it to and fro like a sieve. Their tongue acts like a piston to pump out the water, and the bird then swallows the mush. Baby flamingos are born with light grey plumage, and the pinks and reds of adult birds are derived mainly from the carotene and bacteria in their diet. Generally speaking, the pinker the flamingo, the better it's fed, and the happier it probably feels. All flamingo species are gregarious, which is just as well because nature has been remarkably stingy in providing habitats to meet their preferred feeding, breeding and security requirements. The ideal combination sometimes leads them to places where most other birds, animals, and even most fish would regard as hell on earth. Soda lakes, like those in the Great Rift Valley, typically have few, if any, large fish to compete for the organisms the birds feed on. The catch is that such lakes often have no outlet. And if the inflow of fresh water drops, the salts remorselessly build up. At the best of times, the birds have to visit nearby streams regularly to clean their plumage. In bad years, the saline balance can get so out of kilter that it dooms the chicks. Salt gradually builds up on their legs, eventually forming heavy manacles that make walking difficult and the prospect of flying impossible. Aside from such gloomy natural traps, things usually work out, and the birds are capable of staging some of the biggest and most flamboyant parties on the planet. Their en masse synchronized mating rituals can be hilarious to our eyes, though they'd probably be mortified to hear it. And they've got the moves, baby, easily outshining a heaving mass of self-conscious teenage disco dancers. The point of these synchronized displays is to pair off and get everyone in the mood. Once the fun's over, they get down to the serious business of nest building. The result is a mini volcano made mainly of mud. The female lays a single egg in the caldera, and the parents take turns sitting on the nest. Both parents feed the chick for several weeks with crop milk manufactured by glands in their upper digestive tract. They are among the few birds to have evolved such an intimate method. Flamingo chicks instinctively know that they're one of a crowd rather than one of a kind, congregating into small neighborhood creches within 2 weeks of hatching. Where there's a large population, these small creches gradually coalesce into a supergroup containing all the chicks in the colony. The purpose, of course, is to counter the threat from predators, but fish eagles, jackals, and hyenas like to pop in now and again to point out the deficiencies. A flamingo chick can potentially look forward to a remarkably long life, although there are no guarantees in the wild. A male greater flamingo that arrived in the Adelaide Zoo in Australia in 1933 finally died in 2014 at the ripe old age of 83. At the time, he was the oldest creature in the zoo, a martyr to arthritis. His sole companion over many years was an Andean flamingo that at a sprightly 65 still soldiers on alone. So that's the flamingo. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoy the book.